You know that feeling when you open your mouth to speak English and suddenly your brain just freezes?
Oh, absolutely. It's like a little red light goes on in your head.
Exactly. You stop and you start checking the verb tense or thinking, wait, was that a gerund or an infinitive?
And by the time you figure it out, the conversation has moved on. It's the worst.
That freezing feeling is what we're tackling today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leo.
And I'm Mia.
Welcome back to the English Blend.
Today we are talking about the fluency trap and why sometimes trying to be perfect actually stops you from speaking at all.
We want to help you switch from thinking about grammar to just communicating.
Exactly. So grab your coffee and let's get started.
Let's start with a crucial difference. We hear these words all the time: fluency and accuracy.
They sound similar, but they are totally different goals, right?
They are. Think of accuracy first.
Accuracy is about correctness. It's about getting the grammar 100% right.
It means using the perfect conditional tense, making sure your prepositions are correct, and having zero spelling mistakes.
So it's the goal you have when you are taking an exam. You want to be accurate.
Yes, it's the metric for passing a test, generally.
And then there's fluency.
Fluency is different. Fluency is about flow.
It's about how smoothly you can communicate an idea without stopping or pausing every 3 seconds to translate.
Fluency is communication, not perfection. That is the key idea we need to take away today.
I love that definition. Communication, not perfection. Because you can be highly accurate, perfect grammar, but completely unfluent.
That's true. Imagine someone who speaks, pauses, speaks, pauses, thinks, corrects themselves, and then finally finishes the sentence. Their grammar might be perfect, but the person listening is exhausted.
They are putting the listening comprehension of the other person to the test.
Whereas someone who is very fluent might make a few mistakes. Maybe they use I went instead of I have gone, but they keep talking.
The message gets through immediately.
Getting your point across is the goal.
That's a fantastic phrase for today's topic, Mia. To get your point across means to successfully communicate your message or your idea.
So if you manage to order the right coffee, you have successfully gotten your point across, even if you mixed up much and many.
Absolutely. The communication was successful. The grammar error was simply a detail.
And that's what we want learners to prioritize: successful communication. So why do so many learners hit a wall when they try to move from accuracy to fluency?
Yes, it's the metric for passing a test, generally.
And then there's fluency.
Fluency is different. Fluency is about flow.
It's about how smoothly you can communicate an idea without stopping or pausing every 3 seconds to translate.
Fluency is communication, not perfection. That is the key idea we need to take away today.
I love that definition. Communication, not perfection. Because you can be highly accurate, perfect grammar, but completely unfluent.
That's true. Imagine someone who speaks, pauses, speaks, pauses, thinks, corrects themselves, and then finally finishes the sentence. Their grammar might be perfect, but the person listening is exhausted.
They are putting the listening comprehension of the other person to the test.
Whereas someone who is very fluent might make a few mistakes. Maybe they use I went instead of I have gone, but they keep talking.
The message gets through immediately.
Getting your point across is the goal.
That's a fantastic phrase for today's topic, Mia. To get your point across means to successfully communicate your message or your idea.
So if you manage to order the right coffee, you have successfully gotten your point across, even if you mixed up much and many.
Absolutely. The communication was successful. The grammar error was simply a detail.
And that's what we want learners to prioritize: successful communication. So why do so many learners hit a wall when they try to move from accuracy to fluency?
That phrase, hitting a wall, is another great one. It means suddenly feeling unable to continue or progress.
You hit a wall when you feel completely stuck in your English learning journey.
And often, what causes us to hit a wall is focusing too much on grammar.
That inner critic we mentioned earlier. That little voice that says, wait, you didn't conjugate that correctly.
We call that the grammar block. The grammar block is when you start a sentence, but before you finish it, your brain scans it for errors.
And because we have been taught English in school, often through grammar rules and drills, we trained our brains to be editors.
We trained ourselves to be editors before we trained ourselves to be speakers. If you stop speaking to edit, you lose the natural rhythm of conversation. You lose fluency.
Imagine trying to drive a car, but every time you press the accelerator, you stop the car to check the oil level.
You would never get anywhere. You'd be accurate about your oil level, but you wouldn't be a fluent driver.
That's a perfect analogy. We need to accept imperfections to maintain momentum.
And that's where the pressure comes from, right? The pressure to be perfect.
Yes, the pressure can be immense, especially if you are speaking English at work or in a formal setting.
But remember, it's not the end of the world.
That's our third useful phrase. It's not the end of the world means that the situation is not disastrous, even if something bad happened.
So, if you make a mistake and say, yesterday I goed to the store, instead of I went, it's not the end of the world.
The person listening understands you went to the store yesterday. The communication succeeded.
And the more you focus on it's not the end of the world, the easier it is to just let the mistake go and keep talking.
We have to actively silence that internal editor.
We need to teach the editor to wait until after the conversation is over.
Maybe you can review your mistakes later, but in the moment of speaking, you must prioritize flow.
I remember a time when I was traveling in Italy and I was trying to buy train tickets.
Ooh, a cultural note or short story. I love these.
Yes, my Italian is basic, very basic. A2, maybe B1 if I'm lucky.
So high accuracy was not an option.
Definitely not. I went up to the ticket office and tried to explain that I needed 2 return tickets, but that the return dates were different for each person.
Ooh, that's complex, even in English.
Right? I struggled with the gendered nouns, the verb conjugations, everything. I mixed up he and she, return and go. It was a mess.
Were you accurate?
Absolutely not. My grammar was terrible. I probably sounded like a toddler.
But did you get your point across?
Yes, I used gestures, I used broken phrases, I used the numbers clearly, and the ticket agent understood the key information.
So you walked away with the correct tickets.
Exactly. The goal was practical. Obtain tickets. I achieved the goal through fluency, just pushing the words out, even though my accuracy was near 0.
That story shows perfectly that communication always wins in the real world.
And that's the mindset shift we need for English learners. Stop worrying about the test score and start worrying about the tickets.
So let's talk about how to achieve this shift. We have 3 crucial practical tips to help you build speaking momentum.
Tip number 1, and this is massive. Massive listening and reading.
Why does listening help speaking? It seems counterintuitive.
Because fluency isn't about creating the language from scratch using rules. It's about reproducing patterns you've heard thousands of times.
You need to fill your brain with enough correct inputs so that when you speak, the correct phrase pops out automatically.
Your brain learns these structures naturally through exposure, not through memorizing charts.
When you listen to a lot of native speakers, you start to hear the music of the language.
You hear things like, if I had known, or I would have gone, and eventually those complex structures just become something you say, not something you calculate.
The more you listen, the faster your retrieval time becomes when you speak.
This needs to be massive listening, not just 15 minutes a day, but whenever you can, while commuting, while cleaning, while exercising.
The goal is immersion, even if you are not living in an English-speaking country.
Okay, tip number 2, which directly connects to listening, learn in chunks, not words.
This is huge for fluency. Stop learning isolated vocabulary words.
If you learn only the word responsible, you still have to figure out how to put it into a sentence. I am responsible for this project.
But if you learn the chunk, I'm responsible for, then you only need to add the noun.
You save so much processing time. Learning chunks means learning common phrases, idioms, and collocations together.
Things like, on the other hand, or I look forward to hearing from you, or sorry to interrupt.
These chunks are ready-made phrases that native speakers use automatically. They are the building blocks of natural conversation.
When you use chunks, you bypass the grammar block completely because the phrase itself is already grammatically correct.
You are no longer calculating subject plus verb plus object. You are deploying a ready-made unit.
This makes you sound more natural and much faster.
It's like using Lego blocks that are already assembled into small structures rather than trying to snap together every single tiny piece every time.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, now for the third tip. And this is for when you are actively speaking. We call it the 3-second rule.
I love this one because it forces action.
The 3-second rule means that when someone asks you a question, or when it is your turn to speak, you must open your mouth and start speaking within 3 seconds.
No matter what comes out, if you wait longer than 3 seconds, your internal editor has time to activate. That's when the grammar block hits.
If you wait 4 or 5 seconds, you are thinking, how do I structure the perfect present continuous passive tense here?
And you lose the opportunity to be fluent.
So within 3 seconds, you must say something, even if it's just a filler like, well, that's interesting, or let me think about that for a second.
Those fillers are perfect because they buy you time without breaking the flow. They maintain the conversational momentum.
If you can't think of the perfect answer, you can always fall back on a simple, short sentence.
If someone asks, what did you do last weekend, and you freeze, just say, I relaxed.
That is short, grammatically simple, and successful. You got your point across.
Then you can elaborate slowly without the pressure of the initial response.
This rule is essential for training your brain to prioritize output over accuracy. Remember, if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. The goal is flow.
And this connects back to our earlier points about reducing pressure. Speaking English should feel like practice, not like an exam.
If you feel like you hit a wall because you used the wrong article, just keep going. It's part of the process. Let's spend a moment focusing on how these idioms and concepts help manage the stress of speaking.
When you are worried about grammar, it's stressful. Stress reduces your ability to retrieve words. It's a vicious cycle.
By using phrases like, it's not the end of the world, you are giving yourself permission to be human.
And permission to make noise. We often forget that speaking is a physical action. We need to practice making the sounds.
And if you keep practicing the sounds, eventually your accuracy will improve naturally from the massive listening you are doing.
The accuracy catches up to the fluency later. Fluency leads, accuracy follows.
It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You focus on moving forward, fluency, first. You wobble and fall, mistakes, but you keep moving.
If you stopped every time your bicycle wobbled to measure the angle of the lean, accuracy check, you would never learn to ride.
Eventually, your body naturally corrects the balance without you even thinking about it. That's the goal with English.
So, to summarize our core strategy for beating the grammar block,
we need to remember that fluency is communication, not perfection.
we need to stop obsessing over details and focus on getting your point across.
And if you feel frustrated or stuck, remember you might have hit a wall in your practice. Take a break and then return.
And most importantly, know that if you stumble or make a grammatical slip, it's not the end of the world.
Practical steps include massive listening to build internal patterns.
And always prioritizing learning in chunks of language rather than individual words.
And force yourself to speak quickly with the 3-second rule. Don't wait for the perfect sentence. Just start talking.
That was a great talk about how to stop editing and start speaking, Leo. Yes, and we hope this helps all of our listeners overcome that mental block. Start practicing those short sentences today.
Next week, we're going to be talking about how to talk about future plans and commitments, and we'll look at 5 super useful phrasal verbs.
That sounds brilliant. We'll cover everything from arranging a coffee date to finalizing a work schedule.
Thank you so much for joining us on the English Blend.
Yes, see you in the next episode of The English Blend.